Welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast. At Healthy Steps Nutrition, we believe something as fundamental as nutrition shouldn't be complicated, which is why we focus on a simple, habit-based approach. We know that becoming the best and healthiest version of yourself isn't just about following macros, a meal plan, or killing yourself at the gym. You have to look at a holistic approach, looking at stress management, sleep, mindset, lifestyle, support system, and of course, exercise and nutrition. I'm your host, Nicole Coyne, registered dietitian and founder of Healthy Steps Nutrition, CrossFit HSN, and HSN Mentoring. I'm also the author of the Healthy Kids Cookbook, 100% kid-approved recipes the entire family will love. You can find it on Amazon. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to take one step at a time to becoming the healthiest version of yourself. Today's podcast guest is Amanda Haar. She's the lead dietitian at Healthy Steps Nutrition. She has a plethora of different certifications. She really focuses on women's health, hormone health, and helping families get healthy together. So excited to be able to talk about making some simple swaps for healthy recipes. So we want you to get in the kitchen, but not all recipes are super healthy. So today we talk about how to make some simple modifications to make your favorite recipes a little bit healthier. We'll get to this episode right after this message. Are you local to the South Florida area? Well, we have partnered with Coastal Community Church to create a free initiative for the Coastal Community Church family called Your Best Self Challenge. The goal of this challenge is to help people get into a healthy routine, healthy habits, and connect you with other like-minded individuals. There will be 4 habits that we're working on every single day. Something related to nutrition, some 30 minutes of daily movement every single day, daily devotional, so setting time in the morning to read your Bible, reflect, some prayer, some time with God every single day. And also, we want to make sure that we're sleeping 7 hours at least a night. The cool thing about this challenge is that Coastal Community Church is going to be donating $1 per habit per day to a local charity. So not only are you going to get yourself healthier and in a good routine, create some healthy habits, connect with other people that are also looking to get healthy, which we know it's easier to do things when you have a great support system. You're also going to be helping people in need. So they're going to be donating $1 for every habit every day. It's up to $300 that they're donating on your behalf. I've set a personal goal to get 200 people to opt in and join us. We have the initial appointments starting August 20th. I would love to see you. All you need to do is click the link in the show notes to sign up. We'll be doing 1 day at the Lighthouse Point location. The rest of the initial appointments in person, just 10-minute appointments, are going to be at Parkland. The kickoff seminar for this is going to be August 27th. So if you are looking to get healthy, this is your wake-up call. This is the time to join us, join a community of people to support you to become your best self, one healthy step at a time. All right, let's get to this episode on healthy recipes. Enjoy. Amanda, welcome back to the Nutrition Made Simple podcast.
Thanks for having me again, Nicole.
Today we're talking about recipes.
Yes, we are. Oh, this is such a fun topic. I love, and I was just telling you earlier, but when we have a recipe, I can never follow it just like it's supposed to be followed. I love putting a different spin on a recipe, whether it's nutrition-based or just what I prefer for flavors. I think this is so much fun.
So you obviously have a different outlook than many people with recipes. And, I think sometimes we go to what's trending on social media, or we find this healthy recipe, or not even healthy. We find this recipe, or maybe we have family recipes that we absolutely love. And they're not exactly the healthiest option. So either we overindulge in something that we probably could make a little bit healthier, or we go to the extreme and try to cut out all the stuff that we don't think is the best option or healthiest portion of that recipe. And then it tastes terrible.
Right. And what my thinking pattern is kind of comes from like the intuitive eating concept of, if you're going to have something to eat, have like the healthiest possible option of something that's really going to satisfy you. So that restricting things and saying, I can't have it, that's not so great. And then when we just, are having something super intense that we're like feeling, sad after or something like that. We really kind of want to have that sweet balance of like, what is the best thing that we can have and still feel satisfied?
I think so many times people think if I'm eating healthy, then I have to have broccoli, grilled chicken, and brown rice, or like something that's super boring. And the problem is maybe you could do that for a little bit, but then it's not sustainable. You're going to get bored and then you're going to go right back to your old things. Or in my opinion, this is the worst option is you end up having family members that are not going to eat that. And then you end up eating something different and you're this short order cook.
Oh, right. And both of them are just so sad. That's funny because this morning, I was talking with one of our clients about, just he's an actor. And so he was talking about, oh, I know like a lot of times when actors lose weight, they say the nutrition part is the worst because they're just eating chicken and broccoli the whole time. And just, we know that's not sustainable, right? If you like food, an ounce, like it's not sustainable for the long term.
It's amazing how good things can taste when you use fresh ingredients. Jason and I have been, going back to some of the old Healthy Steps nutrition recipes that we absolutely love, the sun-dried tomato turkey bolognese and the jambalaya he's made quite a few times, and it makes a bunch. So it's leftovers for forever. And he like triples the amount of vegetables that are in it. So it's like a full-on vegetable meal, which is great. But some of the things we've said is like, man, we actually enjoy the food that we eat at home more because it tastes fresh, it's super healthy, and it's a fraction of the cost. I don't know if you've noticed this, but when you go out to eat, like things are way more expensive now than they were 3 years ago.
It's so sad, right? I mean, you think about, yes, groceries are getting more expensive, but restaurants are getting more expensive as well. So you're probably going to eat for 1/3 the cost as you would going out to eat, I would imagine.
And then you have leftovers that you can have for the next day or the next dinner. So let's dive into some healthy recipes. And we're kind of planning out this podcast episode. We're like, man, we have to kind of separate this into two things. One, like the sweet recipes, and then the other one's like the meal style recipes, where you can make some modifications. So let's talk about sweet recipes like dessert or, but to be honest, like even some of the breakfast options or like snack options. Like I was looking at, there's these like energy balls. I think they were the Kodiak ones, which we like. It's simple recipe. There is a Healthy Steps Nutrition one for energy balls, but the Kodiak one we've done a few times. And on the back, it says add like a half a cup or whatever it is of honey. I'm like, man, you're adding so much sugar in this recipe that doesn't need it.
Right.
Or like a breakfast casserole or whatever. And it ends up being loaded with honey, or a Greek yogurt parfait. I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and the breakfast options there were some hard boiled eggs that were cut in half. So that was a good option. There was this like casserole thing that was like banana, and it was like banana Foster in a breakfast casserole. I don't even know. It smelled so good, but I'm like, man, I'm going to be sleeping in 2 hours and not paying attention if I have this. And then the yogurt, it was loaded with honey and all this extra sugar that you didn't really need to have.
Right. And there's probably sugar in the yogurt as well, right? So
exactly.
That's funny. That's why I always feel so sleepy at conferences. It's the conference food.
Oh my gosh. Conference food is the worst. Right. We're doing a Healthy Steps Nutrition live workshop for gym owners and coaches. And one of the funny things that we're catering lunch in. And so I'm talking with the director of the company, like, okay, what are the catering lunch options? And she's like, this. And I'm like, okay, none of those are going to work. Like, we're a nutrition company. I want something healthy so that my people stay alert and they're not falling asleep in the afternoon. I don't know about you, but I think we've all been there where we've gone to conferences or meetings or even had a lunch, meeting, and we eat something. And then all of a sudden, like the rest of the afternoon is worthless.
Right. You want to, and it's so counterproductive, right? Which is funny. If it's related to work. So,
right.
Right.
Okay. So let's go back to recipes. Mm-hmm. So when we think about sweet recipes, and this could be like breakfast or dessert really, or snack even, what are some of the tips that you have for people looking to make a healthier version of a recipe that might be a little bit sweeter?
Right. So I would say the first option, especially for a dessert type of recipe, a sweet or treat type of recipe, is in most standard recipes, you can reduce the sugar by 1/3 without changing the texture or the flavor that much, which I think is really cool. Sometimes I might even do like a regular sweetener, like some sugar, coconut sugar, or honey, and then also pair it with maybe a little bit of stevia along with it, just to help it be a little bit sweet, but not having so much sugar along with it.
I think that's a really good point. I think there's so many misconceptions about different types of sugar. And I want to take a second to talk about this because this is a question every time I speak at a CrossFit gym or anything, this question will come up guaranteed. And people ask like, tell me about raw sugar versus agave versus honey. The thing is your body processes those things in the same way. So whether you're having honey or raw sugar, your blood sugar is still going to go up. It's still going to come crashing down. It's still causing your body to release insulin, and this inflammatory response is happening. Not saying you can never have it, but limiting the amount of added sugar that you're having is going to be helpful for overall health. So like just because it says honey or agave doesn't mean like, oh, I can have as much as I want of this stuff.
Exactly. Those things kind of have those health halo around it, right? And another thing where, I mean, just kind of going into packaged goods, you might see sugar is listed in all these healthier seeming forms, right? As agave and also date paste and all these different things that seem like it should be healthy, but it's seen by the body as sugar.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think another thing you want to think about is sugar is more addicting than many drugs, right? So, if we're constantly having sugar, we're going to crave more sugar. And then the things that we think were sweet today, if we're having a lot of sugar every single day, are not going to be the same sweetness level a year from now. Like, we're going to have more sugar to be satisfied. And when your body is having all these artificial sweeteners, it's still going to crave sugar. Like, people that drink Diet Coke don't necessarily usually drink one Diet Coke a day. Like they're drinking Diet Coke because they want all of those sweet things. They're craving sweet things.
Right. And it's so hard with the artificial sweeteners because your body expects sugar to be coming in, but it never is in the form that it can process. So that just gets us a little bit confused as far as, just our hunger and our fullness.
Absolutely. So, switching to 130 said you can cut the sugar by 1/3 and it doesn't really change the consistency and the flavor. I think that's a really good option. The other thing you could do is start looking at sweetener alternatives. So one of our favorites is applesauce. So we'll put applesauce in things to give it that sweetness flavor. And also cinnamon hits the same taste buds as sugar. If you have creamer, for instance, that you have that has a lot of sugar in it, could you cut down to regular creamer that doesn't have added sugar and then put a little bit of cinnamon in it? Right?
That's really fun. Yes.
Like, could you flavor it with some other things that hits the same taste buds and your body thinks it's sweet or your brain thinks it's sweet, but it's not necessarily sweet. You also talk about fats and types of fats. Usually, we know our brain, when we pair fat and sugar together, it causes these things to happen in our brain where it lights up and it causes us to crave more and more and more. Companies know this. That's why you could sit down and have an entire box of cookies or an entire sleeve of Oreos and never really feel satisfied.
Right.
At the end of that sleeve of Oreos, you could go back for more. Our body never really is satisfied when we have those sugar and fat things together. You wonder why companies put so much sugar and fat together because it causes more of their products to sell. It makes sense. But we could also look at the amount of types of fats that we're having and cut down a little bit of that or swap it out.
Right. So with fats, you can also reduce that by about 1/4 without seeing huge changes. And also, yes, I love to think about the types of fats because our body needs fat to do neurological processes, things like that. But there are definitely fats these days that are more pro-inflammatory and others that are actually going to help our bodies work against inflammation. So a couple types of fats that I love to use in baking include coconut oil. I love the fact that it helps to, it basically gets solid at a colder temperature and liquid at a warmer temperature. So if you have a baked good that you want to be kind of more like solid and not falling apart, that's a really good option there. Also in a recipe, if it's more of like a cake or something that uses an oil, I love avocado oil. And those can be some just really fun options to utilize. And then the last thing is sometimes I will include some peanut butter along with the butter or whatever is recommended in the recipe. And then you're adding a little bit of protein there too. And it's just Our family just loves it. We add it into Amish oatmeal. Like we make Amish oatmeal in so many different ways because we have it every week, but we don't feel like we have the same thing because we switch it up. So that can be a really kind of fun fat that is just like add some flavor to it too.
I love it. Let's, when we think about sweet options, we just want to think about being mindful, right? Like slowing down, enjoying it instead of consuming it so fast. Remember, our brain is 15 minutes behind our belly. So if we are truly just enjoying it and thinking about, okay, what does this taste like? What does it smell like? What does it feel like in my mouth? I'm enjoying it in the moment and not mindlessly eating in front of the couch. It's going to help you feel more satisfied in a much sooner fashion.
Right. And that's a really big thing, right? On the couch in front of a screen. I mean, I've experienced it myself. When I'm in front of a screen and I'm eating something, I get done. I'm like, okay, now where's my meal? Like I just finished this and I didn't even realize it. And funny, I just thought of this, a hack that I use. I never even thought of this as being related to like nutrition, but usually if I'm watching a TV show at home, it's because I have laundry to fold. And so like if you're doing something with your hands, you have something that your body's doing. It really helps with the mindless eating in front of the TV at night.
So fold clothes while you're watching TV is what I'm hearing from you.
Yep. Multitasking.
You are the queen of multitasking for sure. All right. Let's dive into some healthier options for like meal style recipes. I think like simple ones like tacos, switching from like a 80-20 beef to like a leaner turkey or a leaner beef or buffalo could be a really great option. Looking at the types of fat, the type of meat that you're having. A lot of times when you think of like super rich meals, it comes from how the high quantity of fat that's in that meal.
Right. And so it's great to think about either we want to make the protein option leaner, or if we are, let's say, at a party and there's something being served that naturally has a lot of fat with it, it's good to be mindful of the type of protein that is being served. You might realize that you take half of the amount that you'd normally take and you're satisfied with that. So really kind of being aware of the amount of fat that is in something could really help just guide those initial portions, especially if you grew up kind of part of the clean plate club and you tend to eat what's on your plate. Just starting out with a smaller portion, you'll find that you're just satisfied with a lot less than you would realize.
I love it. No, one of the things that we always do. So Jason brings in these recipes, right, that we try as a family. And usually when we're making changes, and this is what I recommend as you are starting to make your favorite recipes a little bit healthier, make one change at a time. Because if you go balls to the wall with it, it could be not taste as good. And then you're like, dang, I don't like this recipe. When in reality, if we just slowly made some changes each time and then, got to the healthiest version of it would probably be the best option. But one of the things that we'll do if it has a cream in it, we might cut down the amount of cream to half and then do Greek yogurt as the other half. So we're replacing a creamy thing with another creamy thing that's higher in protein. That's a good option.
Yep. I love swaps like that. That's great. And you think about, as far as like cuts of meat, those can be very different. So like loins, tenderloins, those are going to tend to be leaner than the parts that are like the T-bone steak and things that have the visible fat or the marbled fat with them as well.
Okay, so great tips there. If you're looking to add protein to your recipes, collagen protein is a good option because it doesn't change the consistency or the flavor. So a lot of times if we're making like protein pancakes or even the overnight oats, we'll add a little bit of collagen in there. It's not a complete protein, but it is giving you some of the amino acids that help with specifically nails, skin, and hair. We love Bubs. That's our personal favorite. So that could be a good option. And then just being mindful of the types of fats. Can you replace it with a healthier version? And then another thing that I love to talk about, especially with kids that are picky eaters, is adding in some vegetables, or if the recipe calls for vegetables, adding in more is not necessarily going to change the flavor a ton, and you're getting in a lot more vegetables.
Right. So if you have vegetables with your entree and vegetables on the side, like even if your kid eats half of the things on their plate, you got some vegetables in there, right?
Let's give some examples. So the jambalaya recipe on our website, there's a lot of peppers and onions and celery in there. You could easily double the amount of vegetables in there and it's super delicious. That's what Jason does. Same thing with like the turkey sausage bolognese. You could double the amount of vegetables in that one. The egg muffins, adding in more vegetables that are chopped up really small. That could be a really good option. The meatloaf muffins, adding in extra diced peppers. I feel like diced peppers and celery are like the two things that we just add a bunch of that everywhere.
They're very diceable.
So those are some really easy options to start incorporating vegetables, especially for pickier eaters, where you're adding in vegetables and then everyone in the family is eating the same meal.
That's huge. And just again, if you're kind of thinking about recipes and it seems a little bit overwhelming to cook, if you can just cook one meal and make a large batch and be able to use again for lunch, it's just so much less overwhelming than trying to cook, 3 meals at nighttime and then figure out something else for lunch. So we all struggle with decision fatigue these days. There's a lot of decisions to be made. So if that can simplify life, that's a big win.
I love it. Overall, you mentioned one recipe and use it different ways. Like the pulled chicken's a really good option. You can make that in salad. You could do it in a wrap. You could do it as tacos. You can do it a bunch of different ways. I think, going in, if we're thinking about healthy recipes, and I'm going to ask you to put your input in here, going in with a curious mind, right? Like, hey, be open-minded, have a growth mindset to try new recipes. And most importantly, get the whole family involved. Because if you're trying these things and everyone's a part of the decision-making process. I know one of the things that you do with families is Friday Try Day. Right.
Yep. So everyone's involved, that you can all kind of experience it together. I love the fact that when we have families try, there's some space for kids to kind of think about how the food looks, how it tastes, express what that looks like to them. I actually got a message sent from a client that we worked together several months ago. And she said, whenever we're struggling with a new food, we still pull out the food list and, he's able to kind of draw the foods that he loves and the foods that he's going to try, and just gets that just encompassing connection with the food, which is really important, especially for little people.
I love it. Another thing, remember, and we mentioned this before, but trying one change at a time to slowly make your favorite recipe a little bit healthier version of that recipe. And then seeing like, okay, yep, the flavor still tastes really great. And, if you're used to eating a lot of sweet things, know that when you start cutting down the amount of sugar, things aren't going to taste the same. But you can start becoming accustomed to that and, truly like the way things taste without all of the added sugar in there. And then the great thing about that is you're not craving added sugar all the time at that point.
Right. It's so cool to get to the place where you've whittled your taste buds down so that not whittling them down, but, you're not so used to the sweet taste that when you do go back and try something that's kind of what you typically used to eat, you're like, oh, this is intense. This is too much, you've made some changes then, which is exciting.
Awesome. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this episode on tips to making your favorite recipe a little bit healthier?
Yeah, I agree. Just being adventurous. And honestly, we don't have to love every bite of food that we make. Sometimes it's not going to work out so well. I've definitely made some things that my husband was like, this is actually really bad. And I can actually admit every once in a while it's really bad, but it's great to experiment because then you learn what not to do the next time and then what you would change in the future. So just treat everything as a fun experiment, adventure, maybe try something from different cultures if that's really fun to you. And just have fun with making those healthy swaps one step at a time.
I hope you enjoyed that episode with Amanda Haar. You can find healthy recipes at healthystepsnutrition.com. You can also find our cookbook that we made with our kids under Amazon. If you type in Healthy Kids Cookbook and my last name, A Coin, you can find it there. You can also follow me on social media. We post different reels and quick little videos of my daughter cooking in the kitchen. What I can tell you is that parents message us all the time that their kids are inspired by seeing our kids eat healthy. So instead of you being a parent that's nagging, why don't you get the cookbook and see if your kids are inspired to want to cook one of those recipes like our kids are cooking in that cookbook. Well, if you're looking for more help related to health and nutrition, if you're looking for some simple strategies, but you really need a guide, if you're feeling overwhelmed because you don't know what diet is right for you, or maybe you tried a bunch of different diets and you're ready to say, hey, I am looking for a lifestyle change, but I need some help. We would love to help you. You can click the link in the show notes and you can apply for coaching at Healthy Steps Nutrition HQ, or you can go to hireanutritioncoach.com and find a Healthy Steps Nutrition coach near you. Please don't forget to subscribe. Leave us a review on this podcast. It really helps it reach more people. We'll see you back here next week.